this particular client had, historically actually just been closing their books every month on actuals, on invoices, on invoice payments. And as such, you're recognizing expense in your GL, weeks removed from the actual operational activity that incurred the expense. So they recognized the need to get earlier visibility on what those costs are. That this was something that, kind of as we heard this morning, all about change and transformation and stepping through that door, that this is something that the company really needed to do. So they implemented OpenTicket, and that's how I came to be involved really with the whole Enverus team, was doing that project last summer. And that's great. That did wonders for the company in terms of being able to see the costs as reported by the vendor through field tickets. But there was still quite a lag between that activity and the ticket being submitted. So the conversation then went to, well, how do we take this analysis further upstream? How do we take the data capture further upstream? And that's where the OpenOrder solution really kind of presented itself. So the OpenTicket had been piloted first in E&B's largest asset near Bakersfield, the Poser Creek field, about 80% of the company's production overall. So we chose to really kind of start big with this implementation. We went ahead and started working with Don and Gavin and others on getting the kind of the early versions of OpenOrder oriented towards supporting this work type of focus, right? As opposed to placing a PO. We started rolling this out. I guess we prototyped it first, like in April timeframe, kind of started working through the bugs a little bit in the test environment. We got the thing rolling in the field starting in May. And since then, as Don mentioned, the adaptation level has been pretty significant, pretty overwhelming, really. They've created over 800 job orders to date and counting. They might be up to 9 by today, I don't know. For 52 different suppliers. They are taking each job and looking at it, not just location-wise in the field, but also figuring out what the cost center is, what the coding is going to be. That coding gets specified by line item on the job order, so you can have multiple elements all reflected on the same job order. They associate that to a supplier up in front and issue that, dispatch it to that supplier. We have asked that, a lot of times the people that are looking on the supplier side, looking at the open invoice portal, are not going to be the same folks that are out in the field. So we are copying all of the field supervisors for a given contractor on that job order dispatch. So now on their phone, they get a PDF copy of the job order as soon as it's issued, and they know what's going on. So, but the beauty really is that, as we've said, the coding and things that are issued with that job order, when the supplier goes to create that ticket, they're doing so from within the portal. And all of the coding flows through. So you get the entire information trail that just successively, populates the next step of the journey. So that field ticket gets every piece of information from the job order. I mentioned that they are doing some routine tasks. About 20% of the work orders are for routine maintenance tasks and so on. So far, the early results, I think, are really promising. The company has implemented OpenTicket throughout, I don't know, they've only got 2 small operating assets that are not yet on OpenTicket. But so far, we've not expanded the OpenOrder side beyond just this Poser Creek operation in Bakersfield. But the value of work, so we're able to tap into this data set and pull it into, they're using a Power BI BI platform for internal reporting. And we've got this data now pulled into that to where they're able to see well in advance of any of those invoices, in fact, in advance of any field tickets, obviously, with respect to the job order, they can see those costs and start looking at those as they're projected out over time and as they're accumulating in the past several weeks in advance of that invoice. Those linkages are all there. So even when an invoice is processed and reviewed within OI, you've got the linkages to both the field ticket, which is typical, right? You probably are all dealing with that, but you're also getting the linkage to the job order. So now that approver can go back and ensure that everything on this invoice is as it should be. It matches that original order.